A few short weeks ago, my son made a claim that BMW accidentally built a supercar. That's the current day M4. He made the claim that the new M4 was the biggest, baddest, most capable M car ever built, and the statistics don't lie. It is the fastest, but I made the argument that it lost its soul and that there was better M cars on the market. So what did we do? We went out and found the cheapest E90, which may be the greatest generation with that V8 crammed under the hood M3 ever produced.
And he is not kidding when he says cheapest. This M3 has absolutely seen better days. There are very clear signs of neglect, and it's one of the cheapest V8 M3s currently for sale in the entire market. Today, we're gonna throw it up on a lift, take it for a long drive, and we're gonna see just how good or bad the E90 M3 can truly be.
Hello everyone and welcome to Performance on Wheels. My name is Todd. My son Austin and I, we make all sorts of videos on all sorts of different cars.
Now, you guys have really been enjoying some of our videos recently, including the M4 video that we just did. However, with all the love you guys have been giving us with these BMW videos, with some of these old car reviews, there's still 95% of you guys that are not hitting the subscribe button. So to allow my dad and I to keep shooting these videos on these classic, awesome cars, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Now, let's get after it. Now, we were not kidding when we said this car is rough. The ownership history, I have no idea what's going on with this car. It's been in like 2 moderate accidents. There's a few other accidents on there. It randomly showed up in this state, but it's been in like 3 other states its whole life. Literally no idea what's going on with this car. And it's very clear whoever had it did not care about it. The wheels are all pitting and gross looking. We have paint flaking and trim everywhere. We have paint fades, scratches galore. The interior trim is falling apart, but I think that it's a really good opportunity for us to look at this car today to see a car that just was not cared for its entire life, to see how it's holding up inside, outside, and most importantly, the drivetrain. Let's go ahead and throw this thing up on a lift here to see how everything is holding up. As we throw this thing up here, what I want to kind of look at and notate is what's going on for leaks. Now let's start off in the back of the car where we can see that there's a small leak, or I shouldn't say small, it is becoming to drip out of the rear differential pinion seal that the drive shaft enters into. Other than that, back here, everything looks pretty solid. The suspension looks good, nothing crazy going on by any means. When we do move up to the front, I can see that there is a drip happening. Now I'm unable to pick this up on camera just because of, well, it's a BMW. Everything's really weaseled and nestled in there, but I can very clearly tell off camera that this is a heavy drip that's coming from the valve cover gasket currently on the passenger side. The driver side has a seep. The passenger side is a actual drip, and it's coming down the front end of the block and dripping heavily onto the ground. Outside of that, it looks like the underside of this thing is really clean. The transmission is clean. There's no other leaks that I can see other than this random brake pad sensor that's just hanging off. Now that we had the M3 up in the air and we verified that everything is safe, let's go ahead and take this thing for a drive and see how this uncared for, heavily molested, high mile M3 reacts on the road. I'm kind of excited for this. I personally have never driven an M3 of this generation, but I did used to have a 335i for a bit of time there. I do have some familiarity with the E90 platform, so let's just see what the differences are and what my thought process is going between the two of the cars. The RPM that this thing can rev to is astronomical. And it sounds beautiful. I have to admit, as an LS lover at heart, I have Corvettes, we have this crazy go-kart at home. This is the best sounding V8 I've ever heard. It sounds incredible. The downshifts. It just doesn't even sound real how good these downshifts are. The upshifts are incredible. We just got done driving that G80 that had the ZF 8-speed in it, and the dual clutch in this car has so much more personality. It feels so much more engaging to drive, and we haven't even touched on the steering yet either. The G80 felt completely numb taking it around corners, where this is one of the best feedback cars that I've driven when it comes to steering feel. The engagement is so good. You can feel everything that happens, just responsive as can be. It doesn't feel like you're driving a computer. It is one of those cars that is so analog. It is beautiful how nice this car drives, and for 100,000 miles on it, it still seems to be doing pretty solid. I will admit, when we come to a stop, the RPMs fluctuate quite a bit. Could be a vacuum leak, could be a MAF sensor, I'm not really sure. And we did experience one hard shift going from second to third as well. I'm not too sure what that was about. Sounds incredible. 8,400 RPM. They just don't make them like they used to. Just screaming up in that rev range. I love this car. This is one of the best driving cars that I've ever been in, and the fact that it's a sedan that you can drive on a day-to-day basis it's unmatched. It makes the new M3 feel like such a boring vehicle. Yeah, I get it's quicker. I get that it has all the updated technology, but in my car enthusiast heart, what I enjoy is the driving experience that this car gives you, and there just isn't anything like it. I mean, even though the repair costs, which we're about to go over, might be kind of astronomical, it almost might be worth it for just how good this car truly does drive. Before we start talking about the looks, the condition on the exterior and the interior, let's cover what everyone wants to know when going in to purchase a vehicle like this that's so questionable. The reliability, what to look out for, what to be prepared for. And it's so hard to comment on what someone thinks is reliable. Is this car technically reliable? A lot of people would say yes, it is with the proper maintenance. However, the question is how much money and maintenance are you willing to say still keeps a vehicle reliable, if that makes sense? Because some of the maintenance items that BMW recommends and people on the forums recommend are absolutely astronomical to keep this car on the road. And just to run through a few of them, there are rod bearings, there are motor mounts, there are fuel injectors, there are throttle actuators, there are valve cover gaskets and plugs, there's the DCT service. And just for a quick reference, on average, if you were to do this at a shop, this is recommended to be done like every 50 to 80,000 miles. To get all of these items done in that mileage range is between $7,000 and $9,000 to stay on top of those items. And that's a lot of money, in my opinion, to drive 50 to 80,000 miles.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you think that the G82 is the holy grail of all cars, that arcade that you drove around really fast a few weeks ago. I go back to this and I compare this to a modern day M car. And I asked our friends over at the AI Institute in a few different ways, compare a E92 versus a G82 on a 5-year maintenance record with the known repairs or expected repairs on the E92, as well on the G82, G80, whatever you want to compare it to there. And I was kind of surprised, to be honest with you, because even with all the items that Austin just listed from year to year, they essentially line right up when it comes to maintenance cost. So maybe you don't buy the least expensive example you can find of an E92, but you find a clean example, and it really comes down to that experience you're looking for, where you can drive a video game around or one of the most engaging, thrilling, amazing sounding V8s to ever be produced. And to get yourself behind the driver's seat, let's say it's going to be $50,000 less.
And just to touch on a couple of more of those things that my dad stated and how I was bringing up that long laundry list of items that are recommended to do on the M3, well, every single one of them now has an aftermarket parts supplier that's available. Like, for example, you can get rod bearings from BE Bearings, which is like the industry standard for these M3s. And they're known to essentially last forever after replacement. And there's aftermarket injectors and aftermarket other parts that are just known to be a lot more robust than the factory OE ones that are recommended by BMW that can hold up for a very long period of time. With the proper maintenance, after you do all of this stuff, they are known to be reliable cars. Now, all of that maintenance aside, this is what people buy this car for. The S65, the V8 M3, the only V8 M3 to ever be produced. It made 414 horsepower, very low 295 pound-feet of torque. It does a quarter mile in just under 13 seconds and a 0 to 60 time of like 4.5, just over 4.5 seconds, right? So people are not buying this car for its performance numbers. There are a lot of other cars out there that are a lot faster than this car for the price point that these are sitting in. Even this very ratty example is still in the low $20,000 range, which is a lot of money in my personal opinion. They are buying this car for the experience that this engine gives, not necessarily the performance that it puts out.
You have to remember, in this era that M5 came out, and that was that legendary V10. There's a lot of similarities between this V8 and that V10, just essentially losing 2 of those cylinders. When you take everything that Austin said into account, the performance numbers of this car, they are still very respectable, whatever it is now, 16, 17 years later. And when we compare it to that G82, that 0 to 60 time in non-competition form is about a half a second difference. You go to the competition of the G82 and it's about a second difference. Same story with the quarter mile time, a second to a little over a second, the difference in time. When you talk about the full-blown experience, use the Nürburgring as an example. The E92 would go around the Nürburgring about 35 to 40 seconds slower than a modern day G82. So there's obvious, as I stated before, improvements in technology. The best of the best is what you can buy on today's market. I will still question if you will have the equal smile or a bigger smile on your face driving the E92 around the track versus that modern day arcade game. And then you compare looks between this generation and the current generation when you actually had a power bulge that meant something, and just the legendary iconic style of BMW, the wider fenders, the quad exhaust out back. This is the BMW that everyone thinks of, not that modern day bucktooth thing that you like.
I wouldn't say that I like it, and I especially wouldn't say that I like it over this. This is one of the most beautiful sedans that I think has ever been built to this day. There's not an angle on it that looks bad. I think the interior is amazing as well, which we'll get into in a second. They just did a great job with the styling on this car. But the question is now, in this generation, in this day and age, is how exactly is all of this style and all of these looks holding up? As you can see here, one of our headlights doesn't look so hot anymore, and those are not super affordable to purchase OEM, but there is aftermarket options available that do look quite good, and they give it the updated LED because this one was not spec'd with the LED lights. It has those, in my opinion, really ratty looking like halo lights that are still a halogen bulb or whatever. It's very weird, and I don't like the look of those bulbs. Around the side of this car, on your side, the window trim peel is
a little
so
Sharpie
bad.
would go a long way here.
A little Sharpie would go a long way. You could probably wrap it to fix it ultimately. This car has a lot of just paint scuffs and scratches, which of course are not a testament to the paint itself. It's just really rough over there on the passenger side.
Good candidate for a vinyl wrap is all I see.
It would be a very good candidate for a vinyl wrap. And around back, we have the badge fading. That legendary M3 badge is
eBay, $7.99, big deal.
is just gone. And once again, just covered in scratches. But outside of all of that, I mean, for how poorly taken care of this car is, we're only seeing essentially a headlight that's foggy, as well as some trim that's peeling off and a badge that's faded. I would say that's pretty high tier on build quality. Let's see what the interior has to offer.
So these seats don't look as classy as those modern day carbon buckets, but I have to say they are pretty darn spectacular when it comes to comfort, performance oriented, still comfortable. Driving position is fantastic in here, and there are elements that make you feel like it's even a better quality car than the one that cost more than double the price.
Yeah, well, I will admit the M4 that we were checking out did not have the fancy leather carbon interior, but I mean, even then, the fact that the door panels rattled in that $100,000 MSRP car was just crazy to me. Well, here, 100,000 miles later, this is held up really well. Now, this is the generation of BMW that's known to have the sticky launching cup holders out of the dash.
And they are sticky.
They are very sticky.
And there's not much launching going on.
There's not much launching going on these ones in particular. But I think this is prime or peak BMW when it comes to dashboard. The infotainment in this car, I love the infotainment. It's so easy to use. It still feels classy and modern even 20 years later, which is crazy out of an infotainment system. That's how well put together that is. And the gauges. The gauges are just the best of the best analog gauges. They look great. They have the lights where they need to be. The RPM or the tach that moves as the car warms up. Just so cool and classy. You don't have any buttons in here that are over the top. It's not complicated to change your climate. It's just easy to use. It might take you a couple of tries to figure out how to use the DCT switch, or you could spec it with a manual as well, and you're rocking.
There's definitely a few war scars or stories across this example. Similar to the outside, there's some nicks, scratches, dings, fading. that you wouldn't expect from a BMW, but knowing that this car maybe wasn't taken care of with a white cloth or white cotton glove treatment, ultimately the interior's held up really well. The seats are put together well. They show a little bit of wear, but I'm really impressed for how much we assume this car wasn't taken care of previously.
That is very true. And one more thing to touch on in the interior is the back seats. And one thing that's kind of crazy to me, we just spent some time in that G80, and the M4 had more legroom and more back seat space than this car, which has a back seat, like dedicated door. Like it's just so interesting how much more space I felt like I had. And the trunk's also smaller in here than it also was in the M4 as well. But I think that kind of wraps up the inside and the outside. Genuinely a fantastic car. I don't know how you could ever go wrong with the styling in or out of this generation of BMW. Just cherry on top of design. This is an amazing car inside and out. Even so much longer later, I would have to pick this over any of the other generations of M3 that I could think of. It's just that good. Now, the question is do you buy one that's all ratty? I mean, the only way I could ever wrap my mind around buying something like this is if I am 100% prepared to do a full engine out, service everything in the transmission, and I mean, wrap the car or do something to somehow make up for that $10,000, $15,000 price gap of buying one that's super clean. I mean, just in parts alone, you're going to be $7,000-8,000 into getting this car into the condition that those other ones are in, or maybe even $5,000 to get it ready to be as reliable as one that's $15,000 more. So the question is just how much work do you want to do, really? I think that's what it comes down to. So I think this would be a great car, but it's going to take a lot of work to reliably get you where you want to go, because if you don't address those items that we brought up, engine failure is known to happen, and transmission failure is known to happen if you don't stay on top of that maintenance. So that's $10,000 plus per, well, for the engine, and around $3,000 for the transmission is what I've seen online. Now the question is, would you guys buy an M3 like the one shown in this video, or would you go after a pristine example? Let us know down in the comments below. And thank you guys so much for watching here on Performance on Wheels. Look forward to seeing you next time.